Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, some of the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about nerd news topics. Stuff that has happened since the last show last Tuesday. We do this every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, a first-person shooter on Facebook and Instagram as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, a couple of other places doing some other things. Joining me tonight is, we're going to start with the man with the sign, the professional sign. Lewis, introduce yourself if you would.
The wonderful Marquee. And for you guys who are just popping in real quick, it's also 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Sorry, my mic cut out there for a second. It was really weird.
Okay.
I got some really weird mic settings. Sorry, everybody. There was a little malfunction on my part right there. But my name is Luis Correa. Crash the Photos on Facebook. Crash the Stampede on Twitch if you want to check me out when I do some streams with some of my favorite friends. I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm also a co-producer with Nerd Caliber, and we're looking to get a lot more content. I've been reaching out to a few people, so hopefully in the future we got a bit more things for you. Tonight we have some wonderful topics here today. I am fumbling tonight. What is going on? I usually do these like no problem.
Smooth
Greg,
as mud.
take over for me. It's Greg, man. Greg's rainbows.
I can't possibly take over for Crash. That's a tall order.
All right, Mr. Rainbow Beard, fill us in.
Hi, everybody. Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama Photography, and hopefully getting back into some cosplay sometime soon. I am actually working on a Blackbeard. I know that's a bit of a play on words at the moment, considering that this is the opposite of either Blackbeard or Blackbeard, as in the gayest of pirates. Yes, I'm working along on that one, probably for Boston Comic-Con.
Fan Expo Boston.
Fan Expo Boston. Yes, one of our.
We kind of signed a contract with them. I'm just saying.
We have a contract, and I work for them at other shows. You'd think I would know know the proper sponsor terminology by this point, but I will plead still getting over the last remnants of COVID from the last Fan Expo event that I was at in Florida. It's kind of kept me away from doing shows for a while because coughing into a microphone is generally not great. But I am back and looking forward to tonight's show. We've got some interesting topics, some not so delightful topics. Unfortunately, we got to touch on the good and the bad here. I just like to do a quick shout out to a local cosplayer that a whole lot of us know around here in Boston, a gentleman by the name of Pat Covey. I had the signal honor of helping with what can only be described as a truly unique cosplay proposal this weekend that we've been planning for several months. If you know me, I have a studio just outside of Boston, Red Raven Studios, and he recruited us to help with he proposed to his girlfriend, and the very short version is we were doing a photo shoot with her. She was dressed as Christine, the car from the Stephen King movie Christine. He was dressed as a demon with a full silicone mask, gloves, costume, the whole thing. Came out, she's a horror fan, like, oh, we've got a demon in our shoot now. So we sat down, pulled the mask off, flabbergasted that her boyfriend was suddenly in the middle of the shot, and got down on one knee, pulled a coffin box out of his pocket with a coffin-shaped diamond in it, and proposed. And fortunately, she said yes. It could have gotten ugly if she hadn't, but she said yes, and then it was an engagement photo shoot. So that was a fun capper for a lovely weekend.
Wonderful.
That looked great. I love that ring design. Man.
So cheers to them.
And since Lewis has been having difficulty, I'll step in for him right here where he often does this, and I'll say, Luminous, welcome to the chat. Hello, everyone. Great to see you all. Hello back to you. And anybody else who wants to jump in, feel free to weigh in with your opinions on whatever we say, your opinions on the topics, or your opinions on our opinions.
Oh man, that really is my spiel, isn't it?
It is. I'm kind. It's
Man,
like
I'm just having an off night. Holy crap!
You're our hype man, Lewis.
come
Yeah.
on. Well, we'll
There you go.
we'll get you up to levels of some kind of hype. Believe me. Before we do that, we do live stream this on YouTube, on Twitch, and Facebook Live, and we are trying to build our numbers on Twitch. So on your screen right there is the URL of twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. If you have an account, we would love to have you join us there and follow us on Twitch. Ivan, welcome to the show there on Facebook Live. I will jump in as I feel necessary. I think that's a great idea. If I came across as commanding you to jump in, I do apologize. That was hopefully more of an invitation to jump in as you feel necessary.
I don't know, man. He sounds Russian to me. Maybe he needs to be told to jump in.
All right. First topic. This one isn't anything particularly controversial, though it's very interesting if it is in fact true. So, Deadline is reporting, based on their sources, as Deadline often does, that there will in fact be a Thunderbolts movie, and that on your screen right there is, I think, the latest incarnation of the Thunderbolts, because it's from the Black King stuff that recently happened in Marvel. But that they will be making a Thunderbolts movie, and that they have tapped Jake Schreier to be the director, and Eric Pearson, who wrote the script for Black Widow, to write the script. Schreier did this. I've seen all sorts of fantastic reviews for it. I haven't seen it. This 2013 Sundance winner called Robot and Frank. And then he did Paper Towns, 2015. And then he's done a few other things. He's directed some television stuff and streaming stuff and so on. And whether you like Black Widow and the writing there, well, you know, that's what Pearson has done mostly. Pearson apparently confirmed this. In an Instagram post, he posted up the Deadline article and then put underneath it, well, I guess we can talk about it now. So Marvel has not confirmed it, because Marvel doesn't do that. I think it's pretty much a no-brainer that they're doing Thunderbolts. I mean, if you look at U.S. Agent and Yelena Belova, Black Widow, and, you know, so many other people that they've been introducing, Baron Zemo, you know.
Yeah, they're definitely. Marvel has that long-term investment with their characters, and they start setting up their characters in phases until they like. The only thing is, if I recall correctly, not that it can't be recast, but the original actor for Thunderbolt Ross passed away.
Yes. Yeah, William Hurt is no longer with us. And so I think they may try to work their way around why it's called Thunderbolts, or if they're even going to call it that. They may call it Dark Avengers, because remember, the Thunderbolts eventually sort of became the Dark Avengers. When Norman Osborn took over. But again, they don't have Norman Osborn in this universe either, so.
Not yet.
Not yet.
For those of us who are not familiar, give a 30-second snapshot of who the Thunderbolts are.
So, Lewis, you want to try this, or?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So the Thunderbolts are like a clandestine group, like the Suicide Squad, made up of hardened supervillains. That were originally run by Thunderbolt Ross, the man who had like a hard-on for the Hulk and wanted to kill Bruce Banner because he was putting the green piping into his daughter. But so they basically were like the parallel to the Avengers in that they did all the things that the Avengers wouldn't do, and it transitioned between a lot of different leaders, but Norman Osborn was the one who transitioned them in and out of the Dark Avengers. And so it was usually made up of a bunch of different people, like I know I see in the art here that you used, there was Bartok the Leaper there.
Yep.
Taskmaster.
Yep.
The Wrecking Crew sometimes is in and out. I don't recall if U.S. Agent has ever been a part of it, but maybe. Yeah, that's basically the thing. They're like a serious version of the Suicide Squad.
So he was a member of the Dark Avengers because he was the one that faked being Captain America. When Osborn's Avengers were actually just complete fakes. And I'm pretty sure it was U.S. Agent who was the one that was faking being Captain America. Ivan, they've been building up a good team of potential members, but I feel they missed a perfect opportunity. The original team was founded to fill in the gap during World Without Heroes. Good point. They could have done a similar thing during the blip period of MCU history.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's very valid. Thanks, Ivan.
That would have been actually a really good... Now, obviously, they can't do it because all of the people that they are potentially building up to be part of this are post-blip. And Luminous, I'm still counting down to She-Hulk, as are we all. And who knows? There we go. Abomination might be a member.
Yeah. And actually, going back to the Norman Osborn thing, we can technically say he is in Marvel MCU because he was in Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is canon to MCU. So,
as a multiverse, was Norman ever in the Spider-Man? No, he was never in the Tom Holland, except as coming in from another universe.
Right.
Okay.
But we're in that phase of multiverse.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to say that you can't have a Norman Osborn in this universe, but him sliding into our universe still counts as canon.
If they can dump $1 bajillion in Willem Dafoe's pocket to get him to come back as Norman Osborn leading the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers, Disney, Marvel, do it.
I can see it. I mean, because he said it himself. Like, for him to come back in the Spider-Man movie, he was like, I just want to do some of my stunts. Yeah, so let the man stunt on.
Oh, that would be so good.
The fact that he did his meme in that movie was like the best.
Yes. I'm a bit of a scientist myself. Yeah, so hopefully it is actually going to happen. It is, again, sort of confirmed by the writer on his Instagram post. So now that it's kind of out there, maybe Marvel will start putting out some actual information about it, about who might be on the team and so on.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Probably Taskmaster. I would assume, maybe.
Yep. And that is who's leading this team in this shot. We'll bring that back up here.
And probably Taskmaster, Baron Zemo. I would definitely give a thumbs up for him. Maybe Abomination.
Yeah.
There's a few people in there. I think my only problem whenever Marvel does anything with villains, I always feel it's such a pain in the ass to do it, only because they have a tendency of killing all their goddamn villains.
Yes. Which is one of the reasons why I love the ending of Civil War, because they didn't kill Zemo, which left it open for him to do other things, and clearly they're doing other things with it.
Yeah, like a 3-hour video that Marvel put out of him just dancing.
Oh God, Thunderbolts Dance Squad, please, let's do it.
Now that would be something.
That would be something. I would love to see that. All right. I think we're moving on from the Thunderbolts. Please, Marvel, give us Thunderbolts. Moving on to, all right, this was going to be, oh, that really sucks. And it turned into, wow, that was really surprising. So, last Wednesday, Anime Expo, which is coming up in a few weeks, made the announcement that they were changing their COVID policy to no longer require people to show proof of vaccination or recent negative COVID tests. They still were requiring people to wear masks. And enough people got on the internet and went, really? Including vendors, because they also announced they had a no refunds policy. If you didn't like their policy change, tough. If you're a vendor, you still had to come to your table or eat the cost. If you were an attendee, you still had to show up or eat the cost. In one day, they reversed their policy and went back to the vaccination proof required or proof of a recent negative COVID test, in addition to masks. So I've changed this from Anime Expo, what the hell were you thinking, to a good on you, Anime Expo, for listening to your constituents.
I mean, yeah and no. Yes and no. Because, like, if you were really listening to your constituents, you wouldn't have fucking moved the policy to begin with.
Yep.
True.
I mean, I will. I'm just going to dive in here real quick because I have literal firsthand experience on this one.
Get it, Greg.
I've been to, I don't know, 5 or 6 conventions since, COVID no longer existed in the popular mythology. Every other show I've been to has had a mask policy, which at this point is probably more helpful and more preventative than vaccination and or proof, etc. PAX, Fan Expo Boston last year, a couple of others. The one I've been to, and actually the one was Fan Expo MegaCon in May. No masking, no no proof of anything required. And even before I left Florida, I was sitting in the airport and getting text messages from people that I've been working with, shooting with, talking to, 3 or 4 people. Hey, you should get checked when you get home. I just got home and I tested positive. So anecdotal perhaps, but it's not. There's a clear causal connection.
Yep.
Even as huge as that convention center is, I mean, it's the size of 12 airline hangars. I think it's the second biggest in the country. I think it's only the San Diego Comic-Con.
Nope. It is second biggest. The largest is McCormick in Chicago.
Okay. It's inconceivable how huge this place is until you've been in there with 40 or 50 foot ceilings and decent HVAC, etc. But it doesn't matter. All that has to happen is somebody sneezes 5 feet away from you and you walk through it. Not to be gross, but so anybody that thinks that getting together in groups of people stuff together for long periods of time, this can't happen anymore because COVID is over, it's BS. I don't want to call out Fan Expo too much because we work with them a lot. They're great people for the most part. MegaCon was a shit show in a lot of ways. I know this is getting off topic here a little bit, so I'll be brief, but they were so oversold and they didn't stop people coming in. There's zero chance that if a fire marshal had come in, they would have pulled the plug. It was literally cheek to cheek from,
that's wild.
Within an hour of the place opening to 5 minutes after it was closed. Parking was, people were late to everything because it was 3 hours in line to find a parking space.
Yep.
So not to dump on them, sorry, got off topic, but that is part of the reason why so many people got COVID there, because they let way too many people in. You can't do social distancing of any sort when the center holds whatever the capacity is, 100,000 people, and you sell 120,000 tickets or whatever the number is. So good on Anime good on Anime Expo for trying to do the right thing as far as COVID safety regulations go. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out and whether people are observant. And I sure as heck hope so. I mean, a lot of cons. We did a segment on this after PAX East when one of the PAX red shirts got COVID at PAX and died. We all have to go into these things with eyes open, no matter what. Vaccinations and proof of vaccination and proof of boosters and negative tests and 17 masks. You go in with your eyes open, knowing that you're walking into an elevated risk compared to staying at home or going for a bicycle ride or whatever. But if the convention organizers don't do that minimum level of safety protocols, your risk level goes up 5, 10, 20 fold.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, like, into what I was saying previously, like, yeah, like, maybe listen to people before you make that policy change, so you don't have to go backwards. Because I don't like giving accolades to making errors, ignorant judgment calls, and then having to retract them. I don't feel like that's something I want to give accolades towards. You should be conscientious of the social group to begin with. I am a healthcare person, so I understand going into people's homes and things like that, and I understand how these viruses work. And it just the understanding of, well, we want to get more people in here and we want to have them have fun. No, man, sometimes you just got to put your foot down and say that, yeah, you can have fun, but you can have fun this way. And if you don't want to have fun this way, then you can't come here and have that fun. Because there are people who go to conventions with COVID. There are people who test positive and sometimes they get a false negative and then test positive later. There's a lot of instances, you could be asymptomatic, still test positive and not have any symptoms. Yep. And there are people stupid enough to say, I have no symptoms, therefore I have no COVID, even though I tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Or I'm wearing my costume mask and don't realize that masks are porous and can pass that thing along. Like, there's a lot of instances of that. So, like, don't retract your policy, put it back in, and then get a pat on the back for that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad you definitely listened. I'm glad that they definitely listened.
So Crash is I made a mask out of fishnet stocking. Is that good? Does that work?
And I cut a hole right here so people can see my lips.
Exactly. It works to make you look like a bank robber.
Great.
Yeah. Nikki, welcome to the Facebook Live chat. There are reasons I haven't been to cons because of my physical pain wearing a mask. Now, I 100% agree with that. And if your choice is to not risk your health by not going to a con, that's a smart choice.
Absolutely. I think, Nikki, that's a fantastic choice. If masks bother you in any capacity, it's smarter to just stay home. I know you're missing out on some fun, but I mean, you're not also gaining or giving anything to anyone there.
Yep.
It's a great way to miss out on fun: getting sick and dying.
Getting sick and dying would be terrible for that. By the way, Greg, Ivan has a question unrelated. Who is on your shirt between Norman and Coraline? And then P.S. I love the beard.
Thank you. So Paranorman. Who else do we have here?
Show us those movies, boy.
Coraline, Kubo. Kubo from Kubo and the Two Strings. Coraline. Who is that? Sorry, that's Fish from Box Trolls.
Oh, yeah.
So all the classic protagonists from Leica films.
Yeah. And Nikki saying, but I'm not complaining that others need them. Nobody read it that way that I know of, Nikki. So, but thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So, to Lewis's point, at Anime Boston, they had a vaccination requirement. They had a masking requirement. I wore KN95 masks all the time I was there until I got in my room. And there were people who were taking them out, like when they got out of the facility, but were still walking through the Sheraton. Nope. Till I got in my room, that mask stayed on. I had no symptoms afterwards. I didn't, feel anything. I still tested 4 days after the first day I got there. So Monday, because I got there on a Thursday, I tested. And then 4 days after the last day, after Sunday, so Thursday, I tested. 2 different types of tests each time, just to be sure. And granted, they were rapid tests. And they all came up negative, knock wood, thank God. But yeah, you just because you aren't showing symptoms doesn't mean you aren't infected and potentially infecting other people around you.
Absolutely. And us at Nerd Caliber, we're giving out COVID tests at Anime Boston.
And thank you for bringing those. Those were the other set, aside from the free government ones, that I used.
And Nikki, real quick, because you said you mentioned you had mentioned that you have issues with masks. I recently picked up these sport masks that are they're way bigger and designed for when you're exercising, and I found that they're a lot more comfortable than the regular surgeon mask or the KN. You can wear the KN under it; it's so big. So maybe consider that if it's the issue of comfort versus genuinely not being able to use the mask.
Yeah. I think I know. Then you got those like my boy that tested positive. Oh no.
And men with beard, use petroleum jelly around your beard if you want to seal the mask in properly. That's how it's done in the medical field.
I hope that they are doing well and are recovering and will get better very quickly, Nikki.
Cheers.
Now, nobody wants to have COVID, right, Greg?
COVID got like COVID. I was gonna say COVID has Greg. How messed up is it, man? You know what? I'm gonna stick with that. COVID pissed off that they tested for Greg.
It got me. Yeah.
I tell you,
Yeah, that's right. Test for me, bitch.
I'm sorry, Nikki. I'm not really sure. Negative test, but positive. So it was a negative rapid test, but they do actually have it. And then they went to get like one of the other tests.
Interesting.
Emma, welcome to the chat. Emma says, "Nice rainbow beard."
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to suck on it.
I get that a lot.
I don't think it's going to taste like the Skittles it looks like, though. Might taste like the kielbasa you just had.
I have a spray for that. for you, Crash, I'll spray on some Skittle flavor.
Hell yeah.
All right, time to move on to our next topic. And it is another movie rumor thingy. This is, of course, the amazing Lady Gaga with somebody famous who has played the Joker. And this
Gaga.
story is about Lady Gaga and somebody famous playing the Joker, except not that guy. The rumor is out there that Lady Gaga is in early talks to play Harley Quinn in the Joaquin Phoenix Joker sequel, which in the headline here they call Joker 2, but it is in fact Joker Folie à Deux.
Okay.
And Todd Phillips would come back and direct and write, and she would probably play Harley Quinn. And why? I mean,
art.
Money.
I watched a music video where she was actually dressed up as Harley Quinn and I was like, man, all right, you know what? When I first saw the article, I was just like, nah, that's kind of wrong. But then I saw that video and I was like, you know what? You mangy mutt, you sold me. You got me. You got me that you could pull this off.
No, I think she would be absolutely fantastic. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine actually a better Harley Quinn, now that I think about it, than Lady Gaga.
Yep.
But why are we getting, I mean, again, money, it made $1 billion, but, why are we getting a Joker 2? Why is, the Monster Mother working in a movie with a guy who said he left comedy because that damn woke culture?
Yeah. I mean, those are all the questions that came to my mind immediately. Most of them about the movie itself, and then the frosting on top, the cherry on top of that was, why on earth would Lady Gaga want to be in a movie? Someone who is, doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk with progressive values, is such a supporter of gay rights, trans rights, human rights. Why would she want to be in a movie with, a Todd Phillips production who, he's basically an incel superhero, an MRA superhero. That's incomprehensible. This whole second act feels like a giant troll of a movie. I mean, they could release the whole thing in 1-minute clips on Twitter, and it would be perfect. Yeah, I agree. Lady Gaga could be a perfect Harley Quinn in the right vehicle. Like in 100 years, I would never have thought that Kaylee Cuoco would be a good Harley Quinn, and she was really, really good on the HBO Max series.
Yep.
Just rewatched it, loved it. She was so good. I mean, it's animated, obviously very different proposition, but she was fantastic in that. But it's a musical? What the frig?
Oh
What?
yeah, the rumor is also that it's a musical.
Right.
Hollywood Reporter's sources say that it's going to be a musical.
Right.
All right.
So,
Well,
I mean,
you know,
early days.
What I would think here, well, first off, why would she work with him, with Joaquin Phoenix? Well, why do any of us go to work and have that asshole coworker that we can't stand because we got to do it? Like, she don't necessarily got to do it, but sometimes there's the professional and personal. You got to try to separate the two. You can
Sure.
be supportive of a lot of things in your personal life, but sometimes the professional, you gotta get the check.
Right.
You gotta get.
But
I
you know
don't-
what?
I don't want to,
She
but-
doesn't. She doesn't. You know, all three of us on this call got to. Well, Roddy's retired, so he doesn't have to. But we got to go where we can get a job and do what we got to do. And if there's an a-hole that we got to work with, we got to put up with, shit happens. I gotta think Lady Gaga's net worth is 2, 5, 10 times what Joaquin Phoenix value is. She could literally sit on a beach, drink Mai Tais on her,
yes and no,
on her
'cause-
record royalties alone, let alone whatever she gets on movies.
It's yes and no, because we know we've established throughout history that the richer you get, the more you spend. Nick Cage is a good example of somebody who made a lot of money and he is like broke.
Yeah.
Fair?
You know, you get but also in a previous discussion about something very similar, you know, it's noted that sometimes you got to shake the hand to get your projects off. So she might have a project that she really wants to get going, and the studio's like, if you do this, we do that.
That's a fair point. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to be honest,
yeah, who the hell knows? I mean, the studio system is the studio system, but I feel like she's got a pretty big amount of clout. You know, she's not Meryl Streep. You know, she can't walk into Warner Brothers and say, I found this script from a young screenwriter no one's ever heard of. Make this movie. You know, Meryl Streep probably can do that. George Clooney can probably do that. Lady Gaga, a little less so, but she's probably got something close to that.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's that same kind of quid pro quo that she's got to do a movie like this. I mean, maybe it is a passion project for her. Maybe she's always wanted to play Carly in a movie, and this is the only movie that she's going to have that opportunity presented.
Maybe he's like the lesser of two evils in terms of like what I can tolerate.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you call him all of the things that he's been sort of accused of in here as being like a incel, favorite of the men's right activists. His movie was a favorite of the men's right activists and incels. He has not said much that would lead you to think that he holds any of those views, except for that one comment about leaving comedy because you can't say anything funny anymore because of woke culture.
Yeah, and he's not that funny to begin with, so.
Well, yeah.
It's easy to walk out the door when you got the path in front of you.
Sure. Now, to be fair, the Hangover movies made $1.4 billion combined, but that doesn't mean it's funny.
I don't know what Stephanie is like in her personal life. Lady Gaga certainly is one of the poster girls for at least theoretically for woke culture. I mean, I don't think she's beating the drum for cancel everything that doesn't adhere to narrow definitions of certain things, but she doesn't strike me as somebody that that he would want to work with, that Todd Phillips would want to work with if he decries woke culture as being so antithetical to old school boys club funny.
Right.
It seems like oil and vinegar to me, or oil and water.
Yeah.
There's definitely something there. But as to the movie being a potential musical, I'm down with that, to be honest, because they're psychotic. They're psychotic characters. So there's numerous comic books that show Harley Quinn visually seeing the world differently from how everybody else. So when she hits people with a mallet and crushes their skull, she sees bunny rabbits and hearts. She don't see blood and gore.
Yeah, that's
In the
what's
earlier
the word?
versions, to be clear.
Kinesthesia.
And which they did a very good job of capturing in her big wedding dress fight scene in The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So Emma says, I always thought that Lady Gaga was some Harley Quinn-esque crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Fair.
You show up on the red carpet draped in meat, or you get walked on inside
People
of an egg.
will notice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So very, very quick aside, my 15 minutes adjacent to fame, one of my bands many years ago, probably the last original band that I was in, we used to go down to Greenwich Village all the time, and we played at the Bitter End and a bunch of clubs all over. And we actually opened for, I can't think of her, Stephanie, what's her last name?
Germanata.
Giamatti.
Germanata. So like
Germanata.
Germany, but Germanata.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was thinking of Paul Giamatti, which she definitely is not. We opened for her before she was Lady Gaga, when she was just playing solo act, doing some of her original material, playing a little keyboard. She was headlining small clubs for 40 people on 1 a.m. on a Tuesday night in Greenwich, and no idea who she was, just remembered her name, and we were all sitting there like, this person is going to go somewhere. There is way too much talent coming out of that microphone and that keyboard, just pouring her heart out. Songwriting is great. The you could just tell she had whatever it is. She's got it coming out of her in bucket loads. And sure enough, like 5 years later, when Lady Gaga hit the stage, hit the scene, I was talking to my drummer and like, she looks super familiar. Doesn't she look familiar? And he's like, I think we opened for her a couple times. And we don't get Christmas cards anymore. It's very unfortunate.
Oh, that's sad. Lee, welcome to the Facebook Live chat. Lee, draped in meat, lol. And Ivan says, I think, please, Ivan, fingers crossed this happens. It would be hilarious if the movie is about Harley converting the Joker to a woke mentality.
Ooh, there's wow. That is that's a plot twist. I would go for that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually really think to be perfectly honest, based on his comic book history, I don't really think he's really the like men's right type of guy. Like he don't really give a shit.
He'll murder anyone.
Yeah, but he also didn't have a problem punching the shit out of the Red Skull.
Oh man, I forgot all about that crossover.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh man, I'm American. You're a Nazi. You're done. That's it."
But I guess the thing that I find hard to sort of circle the square on here is, yeah, this kind of stuff works in, like, to go back to the Harley Quinn animated show on HBO Max. It's very meta. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Musical numbers work. Over-the-top, crazy, zany stuff works because it's, that's the kind of show it is. Joker was not that. It was very serious. It was very navel-gazy, very portentous, took itself very seriously. This is a serious movie. I don't know how you circle that square with a musical numbers and, Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. I mean, yeah. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like, it will be an uphill battle, but I think you can do it in such a clever way if you're really focusing, because the first movie was about how the system really crushes the individual in so many words, and how the system doesn't provide for the weakest. So I don't see a problem with a very serious movie with the occasional musical number where he's just fucking crazy because he did not see the world. I mean, he had that whole thing where he thought his neighbor was in love with him, and he imagined that whole relationship.
You know, I was trying to think of an example. Pennies from Heaven. Anybody remember that movie? You can make a musical that is dark, twisted, and no fun at all, except watching Christopher Walken dance. And it works. I mean, it didn't make any money whatsoever. It was an absolute bomb, but it's a really fascinating movie.
It's a classic.
Yeah. Lee says, Greg, I love the beard.
Thank you, Lee.
We love you, Lee.
And also, I love the animated series. Both accurate statements.
There's a lot to love there.
Yep.
Lee, did you get my resume? Inside joke.
All right, we're moving on to something that does not have a lot to love there.
No, not so much.
Final topic,
Take a
folks.
swig for this one.
All right, this is going to be tough because there's an awful lot of confusing stuff out there, literally right down to confusion about names. So the news is that Ezra Miller is in legal trouble again. The legal trouble this time is that they have been told that they will be served with a restraining order by a court if they do not show up to the hearing to contest this restraining order. The restraining order was issued by the tribal court of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe in North Dakota because the parents of an 18-year-old claim that Ezra Miller has been grooming their child since they met when the child was 12 at the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. That child is now 18, but in tribal law, the parents are still guardians of the child and still can ask for a restraining order in situations like this. I'm using the word the child, or the phrase the child, because it's a little confusing. The legal document, and I'm going to use the child's name in the legal document this one or two times, is about Toccata Iron Eyes, identified as the daughter of Chase Iron Eyes and his wife Sarah Jumping Eagle. And that is the name that's all through the legal document. In some of the articles, that person is referred to as Gibson Iron Eyes, using they-them pronouns. So going forward, we're going to refer to the subject, the 18-year-old subject, as Gibson and they-them.
Okay.
But I had to state, because it's in the legal documents, and therefore whenever any of these articles quote the legal document, they quote the birth name or the given name. But the parents allege that Ezra Miller has been grooming Gibson since they met at the age of 12 at this protest for Dakota Access Pipeline, including things like Ezra Miller paid for Gibson to go to Bard College, a few miles out that way, here in Massachusetts, at the age of 16. So I'm guessing Gibson is pretty sharp. One of the problems with this whole legal thing is that the courts and the court officers cannot find Ezra Miller to deliver the restraining order, or the court order to come to contest the restraining order. And Ezra Miller is apparently nowhere to be found. When articles started appearing about that fact, Ezra Miller started posting some very strange things on their Instagram with statements like, "I am in another dimension." and it's just so Ezra Miller's behavior, and I'm using the name instead of they them because in this case we have two people who would be identified by they or them. So just to make it clearer, I'm using the name, even if it sounds like I'm repeating that person's name a lot. That's why. So Ezra Miller certainly has legal troubles. Apparently, substance troubles, bar fights, getting into kerfuffles with people that they're staying with in hostels and so on. This is a whole nother level of creep. Or as Lee says, that's horrible. Ivan says maybe Ezra cannot be found because they're in jail somewhere. Big smile. I don't think they'd let Ezra continue to post on Instagram if that was the case, but maybe. Now, to make this even more complicated, Gibson has posted on Gibson's Instagram, which still has the name Tokata Win. Basically stating that that their parents are transphobes, and that there is nothing untoward has been going on whatsoever, and that's blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
Oh boy, and we're gonna have a conversation about this one.
Yeah, jump in anywhere you want, folks, to stop me from talking about this anymore, please.
Yeah.
Rainbow Bart, you want to take this one?
Gosh. No, I really don't. There's
the
just
head
no.
bites the tail.
There's no upside to any of this. Frig. This does have all the hallmarks of grooming. I mean, obviously, I have no idea whether there's grooming is taking place or took place in the sort of typical sense of pedophilia, but it has all the hallmarks of it. Seems like there's duck quacking, walking behavior going on here. Excuse me. It's especially crappy given that so much of the MAGA crowd is co-opting the term grooming and using it as an epithet against literally anybody who just doesn't agree with whatever they're spouting, which just completely takes all of the, it defangs any of what grooming behavior is. We've talked about this on quite a few shows that I've been on, because in the convention circuit, we've all had experiences or had friends that we know firsthand who've seen it, been a victim of it, older people that, sidle up to 12, 15, 16-year-old, mostly girls, but certainly boys on occasion, or trans people as well, and literally groom them in the traditional sense of pedophilic behavior. So using that term that way is very, very harmful. Just everything about this is it's just that there's no way to unpack this that doesn't make Miller out to be a pretty awful human being. To me, they throwing back in the family's face saying you're transphobic. All of the direct quotes that I've seen from the family have been nowhere near accusing Miller of anything of that sort. They've been very much around, our child needs to be able to grow up on their own path without interference from somebody much older who doesn't necessarily have our child's best interest at heart. Nothing that I've read as a direct quote, and not an inference, not a, sort of taken out of context quote, has been remotely saying anything about Ezra Miller's gender. So for Miller to throw that at them is incredibly harmful for the trans community. Um, it certainly doesn't help their case. Um, it's just, it's an ugly, they said situation. Um, I'm trying to read through everything that I've read about this to try and find some little hint of something that isn't bad, and there just doesn't seem to be one.
There's nothing good about any of that.
There's several mentions of, excuse me, allegations that Miller gave Dakota drugs and alcohol. Alcohol, not great. Marijuana, also not great. LSD, that's real bad.
Yep.
Speaking as someone who did some LSD in college, no, you do
Fry your
not give
brain.
children LSD. You don't give college-age kids LSD, but no, that right there should be assault. I don't know what the legalities around that are, but if you give somebody under the age of 18, or frankly, it should be 21, LSD and say, here, this is fun, try this, that should be considered assault.
Yep. And again, allegedly.
Allegation. I was very clear to say
Yep.
allegations,
Yep.
but if that allegation is proved to be true, I would like to think that there could be charges of some type of, I don't know what the charges would be for that, but that is incredibly harmful.
Now, just to clarify, it was Gibson themselves that made the statement on Gibson's Instagram that stated that their parents, Iron Eyes and Jumping Eagle, were frankly transphobic, is the way they described it. So that wasn't Ezra Miller stating that. That was Gibson, the 18-year-old. Just to make sure that we're
Right.
giving proper credit, if that's the right term, to statements.
Man, it's just, I don't, like, I got a lot of thoughts on it, but it's like, where do I begin? And if I begin, will I end? Because there's so much to it. And it's like, and it sucks. And it sucks because I feel like there were a lot of opportunities to intervene in this situation. And I feel like a great many people look the other way.
Yep.
And like,
just including Gibson's parents, who allowed Miller to take Gibson in 2017 to the premiere of the last Fantastic Beasts movie.
Like there's definitely like a lot of that. I mean, a couple of years ago, Ezra Miller like clocked a woman in the face, and a lot of people were just like, oh, haha, they were joking, even though there was nothing to that. Or no, I'm sorry, he didn't hit her, he choked her, if I recall.
Yep.
And and then that behavior just has continued to escalate with them, and people keep laughing at it, and they're like, oh, Ezra Miller did this today, and what's he gonna do tomorrow? And on one side, you have a whole lot of people who are just dismissing what they are doing. Caught myself. What they were doing, and then there's a whole lot of other people who are using what they are doing as justification to say, well, people like them are problematic and mental, they're mental and health and blah blah blah, and they're using it as justification for more vitriol against trans people and queer people in general. And I don't know, man, it's like it always goes back to when I tell my friends, like, don't idolize heroes, because heroes are human and they can disappoint, and when you start idolizing heroes like that, then you look for reasons to defend their action.
Yeah. So to your point about people using this, because as Greg mentioned, grooming is the default catchphrase among the evangelical hardcore right wing right now. But if you think about it, if you take away any of the references to any gender, anything, This is absolutely no different than what Jerry Lee Lewis did with his 13-year-old cousin, except that Miller and Iron Eyes are not cousins. You know, this is a hetero thing as much as it is a non-hetero thing. You know, it has absolutely nothing to do, this alleged behavior, with trans status or gender status or anything.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, the people who don't think as open-minded as we do are not the ones who are, or are the ones that are saying those kind of things.
Yes.
They're the ones that are beating that drum and using Ezra Miller as justification to blanket across the board and say, oh, well, you know, if Ezra Miller can do this with this young person, then, you know, what about the bathrooms? What about this? What about sports? And it's just, you know, and that's where my head goes, because as much as the alleged grooming is it's a very important topic and something that definitely has to be dealt with, I feel in one way or another that is going to be dealt with, because you're not going to elude the police as much as you think you are, and eventually all of that is going to come out. Everything that they have been doing with Gibson will come to a head to some degree, and but the impact that you're leaving behind, man, like, come on.
Oh yeah, I mean, for whatever happens, Miller is done in the industry. You know, at this point, Miller is the acting version of Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to make a movie with this person ever again.
Where the hell are their handlers and all the studio people who should have been stepping in ahead of time? The minute he choked that woman years ago, they should have been stepping in and like, what the hell is going on? What are you doing? Where are you going with this stuff? And then when he started hitting people with chairs, when they started hitting people with chairs and all of that violence, like, again, where were the people there to step in, the checks and balances there?
So just want to jump in. Ivan makes a good point. On the surface, this doesn't look like Miller is blatantly doing anything wrong, but anyone who understands grooming will realize this is probably the worst thing they've ever done.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Who knows? There could be much darker skeletons in their closet, or no other skeletons in their closet.
Groomers never think they're groomers. We don't know
that. Excuse me, but yeah, I mean, this from what reporting we know, this has all of the hallmarks of sexual predator behavior.
Yeah.
Well, Jumping Eagle has said that, you know, use the phrase, this is essentially a mini R. Kelly situation.
Yeah.
And in that case, in which you bring up the point that Miller may not think that they've done anything wrong, R. Kelly, to this day, absolutely believes that he had never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there are 15-year-old girls who admit that they've had sex with R. Kelly.
Yeah, R. Kelly. Yeah. There's what is that director? Help me out here.
Woody Allen?
Yes. Thank you. Hey, you know what? Again, not your generation.
Oh yeah, no, and the fact that you can't just bring up his name immediately, I feel great about. I really do.
Nice.
That he has reached the point where he's only instantly available to the minds of people of my age or Greg's age, because he is not relevant anymore. And guess what? Ezra Miller's going to be not relevant at the age of 28 or whatever, you know, next year.
Unfortunately, James Patterson, I think it is, who recently put Woody Allen back in everybody's mouth.
It's funny you mentioned that. Just before we jumped on, he apologized.
Yes.
And it was the typical.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, I 100% believe him. White men don't have jobs.
Yeah. There was a wonderful Twitter thread after that said that article was in an interview in USA Today, and then they listed USA Today's list of the top 150 bestsellers in the United States right now, and listed how many of them were either old white men or dead old white men. And it's
most.
Yep, it is most.
And but not to go off on that.
You know, can I just real quick?
Yeah.
Just because of the overlap in timing, and just the diametric opposite: old white man, young black woman. Did you see the story about Lizzo over the last 24 hours?
Yes.
Have either of you seen what happened with this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Released a single, used a term that I think, Rodney, when you and I were kids, we probably threw around left and right. Didn't think of it as
Yep.
Right.
offensive to anybody.
I still absolutely love the Ian Dury song.
Okay. Her fans called her out and said, "That's not great. That's not a great look." And she did it the right way. She said, "Yup, I fouled up. I did this wrong." As somebody who's a fat black woman who's been the victim of a lot of bad language and have had people hurl insults at me my entire life, I screwed up. I should have known better as somebody who's been on the receiving end of that. I remixed my singles so that that's not going to be out there anymore. And I want to be the change that I've talked about my whole life, and I want to be better.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about doing it the right way.
Yeah.
All right,
Anyway,
gents. That's
not the topic.
Right.
So,
We're drifting
enough
off,
said.
and it's 9 o'clock. So my last observation on this is, if nothing's wrong, Ezra, show up in court and just, say so, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Running away means there's something wrong.
Running away.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get the help.
oh, dang. Wow.
I quit.
How did I miss that one?
Yeah,
Oof.
to
Get the help you need.
Cratch's point, it's going to be really interesting to see what Warner decides to do with this. He is kryptonite at this point.
Yep.
I can't imagine that there's going to be a whole lot of appetite to make this, to release the Flash. I mean, they can't really reshoot it at this point. I
Doesn't
would not
come
be
out until
surprised.
June of next year. They sure
Yep.
can.
They can
Well,
tank it.
theoretically, they could shelve it.
Yeah. Just shelve
I
it.
suppose they could recast somebody and start over. Excuse me. The question that does also come to mind is, outside of people like us who pay attention to this kind of thing, how many people in just who are casual fans of superhero movies are even aware of this? I mean, this is a big story, but it's not a big story.
I think
That's
pretty
a
big.
very good question, I think, actually, because a lot of people have a tendency of separating the character and the actor. Johnny Depp is an example, and sometimes they merge those two people and Johnny Depp as an example. So it's sometimes people are easy to look at the he's the Flash and not see. It's easy to, I'm sorry, I was getting my pronouns mixed up in my head, but it's easy to see them as the Flash, but not see them as everything that's being alleged.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that, I think they'll probably have to put the movie out, and then they will never, and nobody will ever work with Ezra Miller again.
I feel like it'll get no promo.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
get no promo, nothing. They're just gonna like in and out real
So
fast.
yeah, either shelf it and take the hit, or you release it and take the slightly smaller hit of it making no money, or it goes it's released direct to HBO, and then you run the risk of this story getting coming back into the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
And really, generating some negative press for Warner. How could you keep working with somebody who's, I mean, again, they can fall back on their lawyers and say, these are all allegations. It's a lot of he said, she said, they said. There's nothing proven. That's lawyer speak.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a couple clause. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have a couple clauses in their contract for that instance, where if the movie doesn't come out for whatever reason, they get banked.
Yeah.
So there's just a whole lot going on there.
To be sure.
We could do a whole nother hour just on that.
Right, and we do have to wrap this up. Ivan, we'll give you the last comment word in the on Facebook Live. I believe people who are likely to see a superhero movie within the 18 to 50 age demographic will be aware of what the star is up to. I think I agree with you there. Plus, it's too big a story. You know, it's in not only just every trade press, but every, it's in Entertainment Weekly and TMZ and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it is. But people, memories, 1 week, they move on.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Sure.
But as long as Ezra keeps doing horrible things every week, which seems to be the case.
Yeah, he's really trying. They really trying to keep in the news.
Yep. All right, folks, that's it. We got to wrap up. We've been running too long.
They got to pee.
And we got to pee. In this case, speaking about myself. So thank you, folks, everybody, for joining us in the chat. Wonderful, excellent interactive chat tonight. I really loved it. Thanks, of course, to my compatriots, starting with Rainbow Bright. I'm not going to forget that. That's too good. Give us a goodbye.
Lovely to see everybody. This team of wonderful people that I always enjoy chatting with. Great to see some old favorites and some folks we haven't seen in the chat in a long time. Lee, mwah, mwah, mwah. Hope to see you again on our next show. Wonderlama Photography, Red Raven Studios. Check us out on the webs. Check us out if you're looking for photo shoots just outside of Boston. And we'll see you next week.
And Lewis the Tongue Stumbler.
For today, hopefully.
For today only.
Just for today.
Yes.
Again, not to ape what Greg just said, but thank you guys for being in the chat tonight, having a wonderful conversation. We really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to having more conversations in the future with our stream. By all means, take a look at our Twitch, our YouTube. We have a ton of content there. We like to tweet now a lot more. So we got some good things out there for you. We have a lot of plans in the future. So those are the best ways to keep track of what we're trying to do with Nerd Caliber. And, Nerd Caliber is a local thing to New England, but we want to see you guys. We want to hear more from you. So please tune in, join us all the time. We love you guys.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's it. Everybody stay safe. Don't get what Greg got, and I don't mean the rainbow beard, I mean the COVID.
No, don't get what COVID got.
Yes. Don't get what the COVID got.
COVID
don't
should
get
be so lucky.
Yeah. Well, it should. Folks, stay